It's completely aligned with the goal of this school, EBAPE, the Brazilian School of Public and Business Administration. And together, we are all aligned with FGV's mission, that is to stimulate the socioeconomic development of Brazil. What do we do at ARC ANA? Well, we make applied research. In addition to applied research, we produce traditional academic research and training material, and also technical reports. We used to do that in partnership with international other research centers like CARLab from Rutgers, and with business organizations and public sector organizations, including not only from Brazil, but international organizations as well. We are very happy about that. So if you are more interested in our research center, I invite you all to visit our website, the same website where you registered for this conference. You have more information there beyond the conference. That is ARC AA FGVBR. Now, specifically about this symposium, this colloquium today. As I said, it's the 7th edition. The first one was in 2016. So this is the 7th year in a row. We didn't miss any year, neither during the pandemic. We were very, very happy that we could manage, of course, during last year and the year before, it was only through Zoom. But now we are very happy that we are back in the building, and we are also using the Zoom to connect and make it bigger and spread it compared to the previous in-person sessions. It, as I said, it was always in partnership with Rutgers. I might say that Professor Miklos is the one that exhorted me to organize the RKNA the way it is organized, and to organize this colloquium every year. So thank you, Miklos, for this suggesting this challenge. The first one with WCARS, and I hope the following years will also be in partnership with WCARS. And this is the first time that we have a very specific panel related to a pretty clear topic that is beyond public sector accounting and data analytics. That is the environmental, social, and governance agenda. I will talk about CIESG later on with Professor Alexandre, that's also here, through Zoom at least. Now, talking about this conference this year, today, tomorrow, and the day after, and don't worry, on Friday we will finish by noon, so in time to watch the Brazilian match. No worries, that the match will be at 4 o'clock only. This conference, considering the entire agenda from today to Friday, comprise a total of 16 hours, not 16 hours of coffee breaks. I mean 16 hours of actual speech and classes and presentations. As you know, completely for free, this event that comprise 17 different topics, agendas, papers being presented by 34 speakers. These speakers are from 12 different universities, including 5 universities from abroad, not only Rutgers University. When I mean speakers, both researchers, professors, and PhD students and master students from these 12 universities in total. We also have representatives from 5 organizations, business organizations, and 3 from public sector organizations, and 1 from an international organization. I see Leo's picture from World Bank here. So far, we have a little bit more than 50 people enrolled in the program. It might increase because some are not so interested in the ESG agenda, so they might come tomorrow or the day after. Now, some practical recommendations. I really suggest you all to wear a face mask, and I'm very happy that you are all wearing it. I will also wear mine as soon as I deliver the floor to Professor Miklos. So I suggest that who is speaking, I think for means of clarity, don't use a face mask, but all others, I suggest, it's not mandatory, use if you want. I have more masks there if you need. All the meal will be served here, including our lunch. So no need to go out to a restaurant. And I think it's a really good opportunity to enhance our network, because most time you like to make some comments or ask specific questions to the professors and then or to the representatives of or the organizations, and don't feel comfortable to ask, raise your hand and ask here. So we will be all time around. You can just talk to us in the break or during lunch. You already have access to the internet, I guess. If you go to your badge, to teu crachá, there is a big number on the back. That is the login, and the password is here for today, 268318. Regarding your personal belongings, I suggest you take your personal belongings with you whenever you go out of the building. But while you're around, and we will have lunch around here, so I think it's no problem, although FGV doesn't take any responsibility on your personal belongings. I think there is no need to speak anything about emergency exit, because we are in the floor, the street floor, just walk that way, no rush, and that's it. And this event is being recorded, so I'm very happy that all of you agree on having your audio video recording today, because later on we will make it available at this research center's website as well as at Rutgers website, and I will deliver this to CAPES in order to render the accounts. So I'm very, very glad to CAPES for the opportunity to organize and offer you the buffet, the travel, flying tickets for the speakers and so on. So I'm very glad for CAPES, PAEP sponsorship, Rutgers University, and FGV EBAPE. And also I might say thank you to Daniele, because she helped me a lot on organizing this event today. So that's it. Time to start working. And I think, Professor Miklos, it's up to you now. So, I will not make a proper and formal introduction of the speakers. You all have our CV on the website. So in order to avoid spending time with presentations, formal presentations, let's go straight to the presentation. So please help me receiving Professor Miklos. E o idioma, por favor. Eu acho que ele pode ficar à vontade de falar tanto português quanto inglês. If Hilal agrees that we could speak in Portuguese as well. So, for all the presenters and the audience, when we will ask questions, por favor, fique à vontade para fazer pergunta em português. Não tem uma forma única. Como se ficar melhor?
Eu acho que vou, então, falar em inglês. Você podia botar meus slides?
Já está. Só clique e vai.
Bom dia and good morning. I just wanted our first presentation, we are going to do two parts of it. The first part of it is going to be, we're talking about the thing we used to call VICE, Virtual International Collaboration Education. And now people thought that was a bad name for a collaboration, so we added the ed in the beginning. So now it's advice. And this is actually a multi-country collaboration that we are just starting, but seems to be going very, very well. Ricardo, how do I change the slides? Press on the keyboard or?
You can click on mouse or press the arrow on the keyboard.
Okay, so the idea, we work with universities, and universities are very complicated rule-wise. So the main objective is to basically to share knowledge among many different institutions. and we are trying to do things very, very informally. Now, we think that there'll be a lot of formal agreement behind the informal start. And I'm going to describe a little bit more about where we are with this particular collaboration. The first idea of this collaboration started about a year ago, not much more than that. And it was just really 2 or 3 universities, including Fundação Vargas, and it started evolving very well. So the essence of VICE is sharing the best of each school has to offer in the real emerging issues in accounting. And it's a little bit wider than accounting because modern analytics are not really accounting oriented per se. And so at this moment, we have many cooperations kind of in and out. In and out meaning they participate sometimes they don't. This is in Indonesia, University of Padarajan, okay? This is SWUFI in China. And very active with us is Durham University in England. The 3 oldest universities in England are Cambridge, Oxford, Cambridge, and Durham. And we actually are going to hold conference like this in Durham next year. I think it will be in September. I can't remember what month it is. Okay. In Canada with Waterloo, Spain, Huelva, and actually we have another cooperation in Spain at this moment called Comilas, Malaysia. Oh, this is Comilas, yeah. Okay, this one I cannot read. Eu não consigo ler essa aqui. This is in Chinese. I think it's SWUFI, but the other part of SWUFI. And so goes on and on. China University of Mining. And this is Jundai. She was actually going to do the second presentation today, showing the cooperation in research among universities, but June is sick. So we are going to have Yugu presenting it from Rutgers. And so this is basically the story. So that's where she is. So these are the universities involved. And the general principles is, this is the main one. Universities are very, very complicated. So we are trying to do everything informally. The first thing is the content. There's a lot of content that we are sharing. And today's conference is going to be recorded, and then it's going to be edited and put in our common receptacle. So all knowledge is baseline free. At least that's the current idea. Now the agreements for profit sharing or any money that gets involved are one-to-one, like Rutgers and FIGV. Like this particular conference that will be recorded was sponsored by CAPES and FIGV. And we have been doing this with the different universities. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. And we are trying to make it very modular. So, and the basic platform of delivering the modules is a thing we call SWAM, School with a Million Courses. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And one of the main objectives is to associate international content to American content or to other contents. So we would like to have cases in Malaysia and Indonesia, and we already have commitments for those things to happen. A case may be with CRMA in Brazil. We want to develop cases everywhere. So we are teaching, for example, machine learning, and we'll have a Brazilian case and a case with a company in, let's say, European company, InBev, that you know, European, American, they're everywhere in the world, and etc. So that's a thing. And everyone be adding content. And each country has other requirements. So the semester in Rutgers is basically 14 weeks, but the semester in other universities is different. So we modularize and you add and subtract modules at your volition, sharing materials, and really the main objective is international cooperation and international knowledge. Just to give you a list of the courses we started in Rutgers, we have all these courses we are offering at this moment. We have a 14-week AI in accounting course. We have a blockchain course in the US, but I think other entities have that too. Audit analytics, IRM, cybersecurity, RPA, machine learning. And we had this cooperation with FGV last year, and we developed 3 courses. But instead of being our 39 hours, it's more like 15 hours per course. And the instructors contracted by FGV were 3 of our PhD students. And you'll see that these models will be very different with each one of their advice effort. And by the way, the tax analytic course is also with FGV. At least we have one also in the US. In the US, the FGV, the tax analytic course is a PhD level tax analytics with Kevin Moffett teaching it, but basically the PhD students teaching parts of the methodologies. And these are things that we are planning to do, and actually do have something in ESG Assurance. We have already something in process mining. We certainly have something in cyber currencies, and I don't see cybersecurity here. Oh yeah, we have it here. Okay, so these are some of the topics. And by the way, I look at this and I say I should have put many others here, because we actually have from different sources developing. And then these were ideas of collaboration, métodos de colaboração, that we taught when we started this. But things are changing, because every time you start working with someone, you do it a little bit differently. And I'm going to show you 3 of the models that we have been doing, and we already have plans for something with Spain, with Comillas, and Deloitte, the CPA firm. And we have same kind of thing with, I'll talk a little bit about CPA firms and what we are trying to do there. So one is the idea of just cost development, like we did FGV, and put the content in common receptacle. And the generic idea is that if there is tuition involved, typically when you put free content on the common receptacle, there is no tuition involved. So the little student in Bangladesh or in India or in Nordeste in Brazil, wherever, he can go in there. If he knows English, have internet connection, he can use it. That's the basic idea. Now, the moment you do a course with certificates or degrees or whatever, you need an instructor. That costs money. So can be local, can be international. You're going to see in a second how we are doing. And the idea pretty much here on, if there is tuition involved, is some kind of sharing of the tuition money among the institution. But that would be parallel, separate. We are not going to do it together. We are not going to have one rule for it. Okay, and this is what we actually just kind of what we did with Canada, with Waterloo University, very, very good university in Canada. And basically, it was for their students along their curriculum, around their calendar year. So it was a sit-down class. I don't know. Actually, I don't remember if it was. No, actually, was it Zoom? Do you remember the course with Waterloo? I actually don't remember how it was, if it was hybrid, but was synchronous. And actually, several of us taught pieces of it. I taught a little piece of it. Abby in our group taught 3 classes of it. Mark Elovich in Germany taught 1 class. And so there were these different parts. And obviously, Efrem Boritz in Canada taught part of it. You're going to see the details in a little while. And basically, the idea is that we use the competences we have. For example, Efren Boritz is one of the top experts in controls and control measurements in Canada. So that's what he offered the course. And we expect Mark Hellovich to teach process mining for us because he's very associated with process mining research and et cetera. So that's trying to get the best from everyone. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about SWARM. Okay, SWARM was something that we started developing maybe 5 years ago. And basically the idea was little modules, very short modules, and SWARM stands for School with 1 million courses. Why? Because the combinatorics of 20 is much more than 1 million. Okay, so the idea was that we pick up a module here, pick up a module there, and etc., and create a course. That was the idea. And that evolved into we teach AI in accounting, for example. Each lecture will be a module, and we put the modules in a common content. Okay, if I'm speaking too fast in English, just signal me. Eu posso falar em português também, tá bom? So, however you wish it. But that was the idea with SWARM. And we actually started SWARM with our introduction to analytic methods in accounting and auditing. And I had one of my PhD students and the undergraduates, basically, I hired 3 undergraduates to develop the code. And we developed the code and we started doing like 2 classes of our 13 3-hour classes being SWARM. And then we increased it to 3, 4, we changed instructors, we increased it a little bit more. Okay, so it was all developed around audit analytics. And we obviously have a lot of audit analytics modules available at this moment. And then we transformed it. It was that, and we started creating much more accounting courses under SWARM. And then after that, the school, Rutgers Business School is very large, has, I don't know, 7,000 students or something like that. It's a very large school. So they thought the idea, they wanted to do education innovation, and basically the most innovative they had was SWARM. So we created basically this undergraduate course. And this undergraduate course was like, the idea was you can build between 1 to 6 credits using the modules. Each credit would be 5 modules. And the modules sometimes are 1 hour, sometimes less, sometimes more. It depends on content. Knowledge doesn't come in fixed length. So we did it very flexible. And so we called it the signature course, and very big success at Rutgers. Because now it's not only accounting, it's analytics. And we got, and then we had to conform, as I said, everything has to be tailored to the environment. So Rutgers registration system doesn't take half credit, doesn't take 1/3 of a credit. So we made everything 1 credit, and they could take 6 1 credits. And they couldn't have the same name. So they required that each one gets a name. So we had 5 with a name, like process mine, whatever, I can't remember what they were. And then in each one of those modules, they would take that 1 core, 1 module, and then they would choose the other 5 modules, other 4 modules. And then the last one was build your own course. So there was one that you could choose anything you want. It was really cool. And it started very slowly, but now it's quite expanded. We also replatformed it into basically web format. So it's a very nice interface now. We got a couple of other people to develop. So it became quite nice, actually. And basically we are providing, at this moment, the way it's working, we're platformed at Rutgers. And just maybe last week, maybe even yesterday, Hyundai at Michigan Tech says, I want to use the modules. So we gave her the access to SWARM, and she's using her 20-something students are going to use SWARM tomorrow, whenever they start the classes. So that's the current model. I think if things continues this way, we are going to re-platform it into some kind of out of Rutgers environment, probably on the cloud, probably much more accessible to international access. Although Rutgers has a pretty potent platform, but that's the idea. And because it's not accounting anymore, it's not, my research center called the CALA, the Continuous Auditing and Reporting Lab, is developed this totally from scratch. And now it's kind of a Rutgers audience, so became much larger. And I expect it to be very international under advice. But I think we'll cross that bridge. Nós vamos resolver isso quando for necessário. Ricardo.
So, FGV students, we are partner of Rutgers in VICE.
Yeah.
So we might have.
Yeah. You just send an email to Chingman, and she will put you on, or to Hussein, or to Max, whoever. We actually are trying. It's not stable. Well, SWARM is very stable, doesn't crash, except. But we are doing like a virtual reality module, and we are just still trying, and we want to do an augmented reality. Actually, yesterday I got an email from Lei. She wants to do our dean. She wants to do a virtual reality show, and so we have this kind of real cool, this electronic classroom in metaverse, and so you can put any kind of icon. You can be a dragon, you can be a lobster, whatever you want, and you kind of walk into this virtual reality environment. It's cool. It's not very useful, but it's cool. Soon we expect it to be useful, but it's very cool. And so student partner university gives list of emails. We give access, and they can just go in and build their own course. And we have people that if you run into trouble, you can just email them and they will help you. So, and that's kind of was CARLab, accounting department. Now it's business school. And let's see in what direction we go. Okay, and so this is actually the story of SWARM that I already advanced a little bit. I think I already said all these features, so I'm not going to do that. But I think I want to show you the modules. Okay, so this is the story of the 6 things. We gave it a name, and there is the build your own course, and the names with that was AI, process automation, cloud computing and blockchain, continuous business monitoring, emerging technology. We're actually going to split it up. We'll be cloud computing one, blockchain the other, and crypto the other. And we have, the way this works, which I think you'll find interesting, is we are basically a research group, reasonably large now. We are something like 40-something people at Rutgers, and then Jundai in Michigan Tech, Arian in other place, and goes on and on. Many of our ex-PhD students and friends like Mark Erlovich, like Ricardo, etc. So it's a large group. And the idea, we do a research project. We usually don't develop new analytic. We do some, but we don't really develop new great technology. What we pick up is existing technologies and put it into accounting. And then we do it with InBev, with Procter & Gamble, whoever we are doing it. Estado de Santa Catarina, that's one of the groups we are working extensively with. And I think I should have had that name in the participating university, Fabricia, who you will hear on day 3, participate in the last meeting. But basically, these groups kind of articulate around us and develop the way they want to develop. And so actually, this is kind of changing as we speak. This is just the Rutgers setup, so the registration system can handle it, which is always a problem everywhere. Okay, I'm not going to do the demo because we don't have time, but I will give you access to it, and you can just try the demo. Okay, and this is we talked about some advantages of SWAM. Actually, this this part of the slides were developed by Vasarhelyi, who is now running the signature course. He's very, very good, actually. And so let's just give you ideas. And by the way, this is obsolete. Every day we're adding modules to this, but look at the kind of things. Process mining with Celonis, advanced AI in accounting audit, clustering and audit, basic regression for audit, introduction to audit analysis, cryptocurrency life cycle. We have 6 cryptocurrency life cycles now, and something similar in cybersecurity. And so it's kind of keep growing, and there is no major plan what we are going to do. We kind of see something like we are doing a project with Luca on crypto. Okay, Luca is actually like Luca Prime is like Quicken for crypto. So basically, you buy crypto, Bitcoin or whatever. It manages what you have there, calls your attention, how much is it selling for in the different exchanges, etc. And so we have been doing this project. Look, every Wednesday we meet, and out of that, the PhD students like Yao Yao is developing modules for SWAM. So while you're doing the project and you're doing presentations, you develop modules. It's very cool, and we already have some things from Santa Catarina with the state. There is in smart contracts, contratos inteligentes. And you're going to hear a little bit about smart contracts in China, because Hugo in a second will be talking about that. And this is because it's not only teaching, it's research cooperation. And so, you find me a company, we are doing something. We have a visitor from Serpa in Brazil in visiting us in New York, and I think he's going to be coming soon. And hopefully we'll have a project soon, and we'll be filming it and organizing the things we learn how to do it. We are going to teach how to do it. And that has been the CAR Lab now for 20 years. We apply a technology, we do something, we did 13 years of work with Itaú Unibanco, and then we put it in modules. That one we wrote a book because we didn't have SWAM yet, but there'll be SWAM. So this gives you an idea of some of the things we have. I think we have much more, but I can't swear on that. Oh, okay, and this is how many people enrolled from Rutgers in BYOC. And we have 302 enrollments in the current semester. I hadn't even seen this slide. Huashia put it in, I asked him to update it. And of these 302 enrollments, we have undergraduates, and we also have graduates. And some students enroll on 1 credit, other students enroll on 6 credits. And that's and 4 hours for Rutgers, this is very useful because students need 120 credits to graduate, okay? And they only have 118. So they go and take 2 in SWAM. And what always happens is now we are in the 3/4 of the semester, or maybe half of the semester, students come in and enroll again, and then they do the modules. So it's very flexible, and it has been very successful. The university likes it a lot, I think, but I'm not sure. Okay, so this was what to talk about SWAM. I think I gave you an idea about SWAM. I just want to give you a couple of examples. So, Ricardo, before you have coffee, do you mind just telling a little bit about what Fundação did? Yeah, I'll give you the microphone.
Prazer, Miklos. Obrigado. Na hora do café, maldade. Mas, bom, então, eu não estava na hora do café, eu que ia lá. E fiquem à vontade para se servir durante as apresentações. O cameço está servido aqui para dentro para isso mesmo, tá? Então, tivemos o prazer de receber o Miklos com as alunas dele. Faltou só botar aqui o nome da... Foi a Lanchin que deu... Foi a Lanchin, o Natural Language Process. Então, a gente ofereceu ano passado o que a gente chama aqui no programa do mestrado e doutorado de 3 workshops, que são 3 disciplinas de 15 horas, né? Fazem aí um crédito nessa área de Data Analytics de uma forma geral. Então, começamos com o Natural Language Processing, que está sem nome, que foi a Lanchin. Depois tivemos o Network Analytics, com a Kim Huan, e o Visual Analytics com a Ricardo, a Érica. Como estávamos em 2021, ainda questão de pandemia, foi 100% pelo Zoom. Os nossos alunos do programa aqui, também tínhamos alunos de outras universidades que cursaram como alunos avulsos, alunos externos, e o material está disponível, todas as aulas e as gravações das aulas estão disponíveis no site do nosso centro de pesquisa, e além disso, também está disponível, vai ficar disponível no site da Rutgers, e motivados pelo interesse que os nossos alunos tiveram nesses 3 workshops, o professor Felipe Buschbinder está organizando uma disciplina de 30 horas sobre Data Analytics de uma forma mais ampla, abordando, além desses 3 temas, eu acho que mais um tema que ele vai trazer na disciplina, e vai ficar de forma continuada no nosso programa de mestrado acadêmico em administração e aqui na escola, mestrado e doutorado, né? A outra questão relevante é então, a evidência, né, da disseminação. A gente teve esse treinamento com os nossos alunos e incorporamos essa disciplina de modo regular na nossa grade do mestrado acadêmico e doutorado. Sim, o que eu ia falar, o ponto central, é que o nosso objetivo nessa disciplina não é ensinar qualquer uma dessas técnicas para cientista de dados ou para engenheiro da computação. O foco é que o nosso aluno de mestrado acadêmico e doutorado consiga utilizar essas técnicas para fazer as próprias pesquisas acadêmicas na área de administração. Então, em grande parte, utilizar dados exógenos, coletar dados, organizar dados, que antigamente a gente não tinha facilidade de fazer, ou se ia fazer uma análise de conteúdo, analisava meia dúzia de documentos para fazer uma análise do conteúdo que demorava meses. Utilizando uma técnica como Natural Language Processing, é possível, talvez, analisar um conjunto muito maior de documentos, centenas de documentos, com um tempo significativamente menor. Obrigado, Miklos.
And so, actually, we are also, Ricardo, we are also thinking of advanced topics now. We are thinking about not only the basics, but we are thinking of things for, let's say, analytic experts in CPA firms. We are trying to negotiate with one of the firms in the United States, you all know the firms, to give courses to the analytic staff, and they might be giving some of the courses. So it'll be very interesting. Let's see if it works out that way. Okay, and this is actually the other model. Remember, the first model, primeiro modelo, was FGV actually hired 3 of our PhD students to give these courses. Material became common, okay, and was Lanchin, Qing Huan, etc. Now, this model here is Professor Efrem Boritz, actually is a regular Waterloo course. And we taught each one separately. So I taught continuous auditing. Mark from Germany taught process mining because he's an expert on the area. Amir from England taught assurance. And Abby, one of our PhD students, now faculty member, taught machine learning. Okay, and Efren taught the control stuff that he's like one of probably the world expert on. So it was very interesting. The materials also, I don't have them yet. I think we're going to have them soon. And this is happening as we speak. Tomorrow, I'm going to have to only show up at 10 o'clock because from 9 at 10 o'clock here, I'm actually teaching in Indonesia. And what we did, this was their idea. That's what they wanted. So they chose basics of AI, process mining, audit automation, and data preparation. I never had that idea. And they said, you know, half of most analytic projects are preparing the data right. So let's have a course in that. So I actually got Harry. He is a baby. We call baby because he's first year PhD student. First year PhD students, even if they are old, they are called babies. And so he has designed this course, obviously, with we helping it. And so actually the model they devised is that 4 weeks was, I think, asynchronous, but I won't. Synchronous is when the lecture happens, you record it, and at the same time people are attending. Asynchronous is you put the material somewhere, and let's say within a week, everyone has to read the materials. Now I remember, it was asynchronous, and the student, the instructors made themselves available at certain times to help the students. And there were a lot of email going back and forward. And basically, Indonesia is paying the PhD students. We have to do some little maneuvering to do that, but it's going to happen. And this week, we are giving in-person synchronous to every student. So tomorrow from 9 to 10, I'm going to be doing audit automation with them. And then Sean will take over and do more robotic process automation. So this is the different models that we have developed up to now. The model we are developing with Comillas is a little bit different. They have a formalized master's in auditing. And within that, we're going to be teaching 3 of the lectures in ethics, basically ethics of AI. And then they have a special topics course. We'll be teaching all the analytic, about 10 modules for that. And they're going to be paying the PhD students directly, etc. So that's basically with UNPAD. And I know I'm running a little bit late, but I want to pass you over the other part of it, which I think is essential, is linking the teaching to research. And you can see already Yugu there. She's an old lady. She is a 3rd-year PhD student, nearly a 4th year. And Yugu, actually, you're going to hear Yugu tomorrow, not today, later, talk about ESG with satellites. Okay, but now she's going to tell you about this project. Actually, she is writing part of this, but really is mainly led by Jundai. Jundai is at Michigan Tech, but she was at SWIFT in China. And she did most of the work for this particular thing that Yugu is going to talk about while she still was at SWIFT in China. She was very productive. She went back to China for 2 years, had the baby, did a lot of projects, and now her husband was in Michigan Tech, so she's in Michigan Tech. And she got the Best Manuscript Award of the American Accounting Association on the blockchain piece that she wrote in 2017 when she was a baby, not a baby, but a senior lady like Yugu. So Yugu, you want to take it over? You want me to control the slides for you, or you want to share your slides?
I can share the slides. Yeah.
You're going to share them. Okay, go ahead. We still can't see you. Okay, I think we now, okay, we have it.
So I need to stop the display.
I can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Yeah, can you see the whole slide, right?
Yeah, I now I can hear you.
Yeah. So hi everyone. So could you first please let me know how many minutes I have?
About 10 to 15.
Okay. So hi everyone, I'm Yugu. I'm currently a 3rd-year PhD student supervised by Professor Miklos. I'm going to introduce you this project. We collaborate with Professor Jundai. So today I'm speak on behalf of Professor Jundai. also this project we co-author with Lan Xinjiang. She's also a PhD candidate from Rutgers, and Hao Zhang and Wen Junyu are graduates from SUFI. So we are collaborating like from different places. And this project mainly talk about how to use, how to use Internet of Things and blockchain-based smart contracts to enable continuous monitoring and assessment in peer-to-peer lending industry. And peer-to-peer lending industry is an emerging industry that provides users with an innovative loan and investment vehicle without intermediation of financial institution. In other words, if you want to get, you deposit at the bank and you get a loan also from the bank. So bank is an intermediation of financial institution. So peer-to-peer lending, you just lend your money to a stranger you don't know. So the primary users are individual persons or very small companies who just need to acquire small or micro loans for very short-term liquidity. And a P2P lending company usually collects financial needs through an online platform and shares those requests with prospective lenders. Although they have some advantages, like they can get a loan very quickly, they don't need to have the credit score. So there are also some big problems, like the delinquency rate of P2P lending platform in China reached 87.2% in 2019. And there's no risk monitoring or control regulation here. And there's no organization for doing risk monitoring and control. Also, it's difficult because all transactions and verification activities occur online without meeting borrowers in person. It's difficult to say, I can trust you and lend you money. And because it didn't provide the credit score, it's difficult to verify borrowers' credit history, and it failed to guarantee all loans, and it's ineffective of using the collaterals. So here we are trying to explore the potential of using Internet of Things, blockchain-based smart contracts, and the framework of continuous risk monitoring and assessment, CRMA, to enhance the reliability, efficiency, and timeliness of risk monitoring and control process for P2P lending companies. And IoT is Internet of Things, which connects different objects and people through network and enable intelligent sensing, identification, and management of objects and process. For example, you have your phone and your smart home are connected through Internet of Things. Like when you, before you arrive home, the air conditioning is automatically like turn on. So you can, when you work home, it's already very comfortable temperature. And blockchain can provide a secure, trusted, and distributed database. It uses a network of nodes to collectively perform authentication, reliable data storing, and management. And smart contract is a program that can directly verify, enforce, and execute the terms in the contract. So like if you put the terms like the interest rate or the terms that you feel fail to meet the terms, you will do what? So it will execute it automatically. And CRMA is a concept that following concept developed by Professor Miklos of the continuous auditing and continuous monitoring. So continuous CRMA means continuous monitor and assess the organization's risks and prioritize subsequent audit procedures in response to change the organization's risk profile. So here we want to illustrate using a company's case. So how can we like using IoT, blockchain, smart contract, and CRMA to improve the P2P lending companies loan transactions? So here we use Finvolution Inc., a Chinese P2P lending company that provides loan services to borrowers and investment opportunity to individual lenders. And it uses DOPA model that which borrowers release loan information and lenders bid the investment opportunity by interest rate. So here is a business process. Like register users first, they will verify the identity, whether you are borrowers or lenders, with different like authentication and evaluation. Then they do preliminary review and release loan information. They bid on the loan based on the interest rate. Then finally they review it and grant loans and repay loans. Here is a proposed CRMA system. So pre-loan, there are loan software which can, because in P2P learning, there are very small collaterals, for example, the phone. So here pre-loans, they will verify the information for the collateral, and they will do owner confirmation, and they need to have access to the collateral. And they also, when this is done, so they will establish the smart contract and include smart collateral contract and smart loan contract. So here is an example. This is information of collateral A, which is iPhone 12. And they also have the loan contract, including who is a loan borrower, lender, amount, terms, and deadline and interest rate. Then during the loan, they have some key risk indicators from borrowers. They can continuously monitoring the collateral status. So they can monitor collateral's condition, collateral holders information, borrowers information, risk of multiple loans, online purchase behavior. So the loan software will analyze and do the continuous monitoring and controlling risk, and they will send the risk disclosure to the platform and lenders and other stakeholders like auditors, regulators. Post the loan stage, they will have the automating loan settlement and clearing collaterals. So if the ownership will transfer in case of the delinquency of the loan, so it may lock the phone or notify borrowers of the change of the ownership, so they can resell and repay to lenders. And there's some detailed information, and this is the loan smart contract content, and something to be included in the contract. And those are the key risk indicators in IoT monitoring. So you can see for the conditions, they can monitor equipment damage, replacement of important parts, and GPS, using GPS to locate the equipment, and phone number change, etc. And the frequency is through daily or workday or every transaction. So it's very continuously monitored. But we do have some challenges, like how to regulate the creation and deployment of blockchain and smart contracts under the current legal theory, and also the technical challenges, like how to accurately and effectively converting traditional loan contracts to smart loan contracts. Also the market challenges, like how borrowers accept these systems. In summary, this paper designed a CRMA system which uses Internet of Things to collect information from borrowers and collectors, and thus continuously monitor their conditions during loan periods. And the blockchain-based smart contracts are used to establish and automatically enforce loan agreements and transfer the collateral ownership while a number of entities and avoid collusion or manipulation by privileged parties. And all relevant information is recorded on blockchain that can protect the information integrity and disclose to anyone who is on the blockchain and to the stakeholders who can directly adjust the risk control actions. Yeah, that's all about this project.
Thank you, Hugo. Thank you, Hugo. Maybe I'll spend 2 minutes just translating this, doing it in Portuguese, just one little piece. É modelo muito interessante. A firma, eles têm por volta de mais de 3 milhões de empréstimos ao ano, tiveram ano passado. E o modelo é muito simples. Ricardo precisa de dinheiro, ele entra lá, ele é verificado e alguém quer emprestar dinheiro, a Hilal quer emprestar dinheiro, ela diga, eu contribuo $10, $15, há uma certa taxa de juros. E aí 2, 3 pessoas cooperam no dinheiro, ou talvez uma só, e aí tem um acordo. E o acordo tem uma garantia. O que eles mais usam de garantia é o celular da pessoa. Então, eles colocam software no celular, detectando o uso do celular, e eles têm habilidade, a ideia é ter habilidade de cancelar o celular se o pagamento não for feito. É muito interessante o modelo, é um modelo que agora, com os contratos inteligentes integrados na blockchain, vai ser totalmente automático.
Quando você fala da garantia, professor Miklos, você está falando do contrato entre a empresa de telefonia
Não. Eu estou falando entre o emprestador e o emprestado. Desculpe o palavreado aqui. E então a Hilal quer dinheiro emprestado. O Ricardo empresta. A garantia é o telefone da Hilal. Se a Hilal não pagar, eles tomam o telefone dela. Se ela não quiser entregar o telefone, eles bloqueiam o telefone dela.
Ah, entendeu? É a linha telefônica, entendi.
Interessante. Intermediário. Mas é um modelo interessante e é um modelo de empréstimo sem muita burocracia. E eles usam variáveis externas, que eu chamo exógenas, para confirmar a validade do emprestador e do emprestado. Estou inventando o nome aqui, que eu não sei como chama. Mas é muito interessante e é o futuro, porque o que estão fazendo é desintermediando os bancos, que cobram muito dinheiro. Eu sou cliente do Itaú aqui e eu fico abismado o que eles me cobram. Cobram $20 por mês só para usar eles. Quer dizer, agora, e essa é a motivação no mundo inteiro de intermediação, muito usado hoje em dia na África, onde o pessoal não tem conta bancária, estão usando as contas de telefone. Agora, esse pessoal só está na China e um dos autores é a executiva dessa firma. Quer dizer, é muito interessante. Eu vou publicar o paper, eu não falei isso para ela ainda não, mas vou publicar o paper no Jeta, porque é muito bom paper, está na 3ª revisão, vai ser publicado. Fala.
Bom, boa tarde, bom dia. Minha pergunta é com relação aos valores do contrato em si, porque diferentemente de um carro ou um imóvel, né, que caso tenha default, você consegue se apossar e botar num leilão e vender e conseguir um bom valor em cima, né? Um celular varia aqui de R$1.000 a talvez um iPhone, mas
multiplica R$1.000.
Eu acho que é a linha telefônica e não o aparelho.
É o aparelho, né? Então, a gente está falando de contratos de R$500 em média, no máximo. Sim.
Multiplica por 3 milhões,
não, sim.
chega muito dinheiro.
Sim, sim.
E o mais interessante é que você, como emprestador, pode obter pode obter os juros diretos sem o banco. Quer dizer, é interessante o modelo e tem muito sucesso na China, 3 milhões de empréstimos, e tem a taxa de inadimplência alta, mas os juros são bons. Hugo, you might know the answer to this. Does the cost to retrieve the cell phone is worth all the effort to retrieve the cell phone, or this is just a threat so people pay?
You mean the cost of the smart contracts and Internet of Things?
No, the cost of if you don't pay your loan, the cell phone is being used as a warranty. Is it worth for the lender to retrieve your phone, or this is just a threat?
So if the borrower didn't pay the loan, so
Yes.
the ownership, so first the phone will be locked, and the ownership may change to the first to the lender, or the platform can sell this phone. So to
Okay,
get
so it's a
the
transfer of ownership. É a transferência da propriedade do telefone junto com o telefone. Responde a pergunta do Francisco José também. Por quê? Do Alexandre. Não estou falando aí. Alexandre.
Apenas complementarmente, eu estou fazendo uma pesquisa utilizando também dados de uma financeira aqui no Brasil, focada principalmente em créditos pequenos, e eles botam garantias, assim, existem dois tipos principais de crédito. Você pode pegar dinheiro, de fato, R$1.000, R$2.000 no máximo, ou você pode ganhar crédito em produto. Então, você quer comprar um fogão, você vai, então, faz um contrato, vai numa credenciada e pega o fogão e você paga o fogão. Só que, diferentemente, eles não, assim, eles ameaçam que podem pegar o fogão, o micro-ondas, mas ninguém pega. Então, na verdade, estou estudando isso. Então, interessante.
Se você quiser, você pode contratar a Hyundai e botar eles em contato. Eu acho que eles têm interesse de colocar contratos inteligentes em outros lugares, né? You know, Hugo, what he said is that he is doing his research work with a financial institution in Brazil that actually lends money this way. But there are really two kinds of lines of thing. One, basically this way. The second one, you want to buy an item, and that's the financing, how you give. You go to a store, you buy an oven, and the oven will become the guarantee to the particular item. And what he said is that retrieving the oven is too much trouble. So they don't really want the oven in. And same thing with telephone. I don't think they want the telephone. They just want people to pay. But it's a very interesting model. And Hyundai has two examples. One, the telephone, I can't remember what the second one. And I think could be a fogão, could be anything. But the fogão doesn't have chips built into it to make it stop work. Actually, there is a model in the US that car insurance companies incorporate into the car. And if you don't pay your insurance, or you don't pay the installment of the car, they basically deactivate the car. So you're driving in Vila Isabel, and then the car stops because you didn't pay your thing. I don't know if it's really active or just was in a book, but they do have that story. It's very interesting. Yeah, it probably can be hacked, but hacking is a very expensive process. So, and most of the borrowers are not going to be expert hackers. Yeah, go ahead. I actually asked the same question to Hyundai, and she said she was going to ask the lady in China. I don't think it's very different because, you know, these are the edges. It's like happening with Google, like happening with everyone. In these edges of technology, there is no legislation yet. So they managed to, you know, there is a lot of literature talking about how Google has taken advantage of the legal system and etc. Yeah, but I think there is a emerging. Actually, I know there is a committee in the House, in the U.S. House Congresso, whereby they are looking at legislation needed for these things. But in the US, legislation takes 2-3 years. So there is a time. First is in the technical group, then in the committee, then it goes to the House, and then they change it. It's complicated. But that's what they are doing. And then, of course, the government can legislate by action, by decree, but then sometimes you need a law. So, the whole aspect of legislation and legal actions on top of the internet, etc., is very, very slow development. The Chinese are much better than the Americans on that. Meaning just the idea that 5 people here, each one put $100 in to lend for this people $500. And you can do that economically without the big overhead of the bank. It's a very interesting idea. And I'm sure the Congress is not going to say you can't do that, because 3 million loans, it's helping, it's nice. And it's creating democracy. But there is going to be the hackers, there's going to be all kinds of obstacles in it.
Thanks. Just a compliment, I think, when we're talking about the Brazilian environment, we've had in the past companies working on this model of collective loans. And one thing that's been very challenging is that the actual environment that we have on regulations in Brazil. The central bank has discussed this before. We haven't seen yet any of those startup companies in Brazil reaching, another level because of the difficulties that they have, the laws that exist in Brazil, like Lei da Usura, the law that provides the guidance for the companies to loan. It's actually something that makes things a little bit different in Brazil. And on the smart contracts that you're talking about, the legal aspects, one thing that I've seen before, and there are some research on that, is how difficult it is for you to align the concepts of the smart contracts on a global basis. Because one of the benefits of the smart contracts is actually providing easier path to collective arrangements throughout the globe. But if you think about what constitutes a contract, for example, is a different legal concept in different countries. In US, what constitutes a contract is different than what constitutes a contract in Brazil, regardless if it's a signature, if it's just showing hands. So this is actually, while it creates a facilitation for the process, for the arrangements throughout the world, making sure that those concepts are aligned to facilitate and to allow a smart contract to work globally, it's a very big challenge. And there's some good research on that as well.
You're telling a story that reminds me something. When the internet started, 2002, 2003, very early days, an internet bank was created. Citibank, Chase didn't want to do it, thought they were going to lose business. So some guy in Ohio created a bank, and they got a lot of deposits and etc. And then they discovered that this had no banking license, had nothing related to bank. So they went there and closed it. Turns out no money disappeared. The money existed, etc. The guy just didn't do any legislation on it. Okay, so it finished up, he got bought by a local bank and they continue operating it. But that's exactly the same story. And I think the government should be very serious about facilitating this. And the other comment that I have is, in the US, 9 out of 10 startups don't survive. And then that's in 5 years, except in the first year, it's something like 50%. And so that's going to be the story. But I find it very healthy, this generic idea that you can start an electronic business, create a new way to do business. And because, just the bureaucracies in universities, correct, are impossible. And the bureaucracies on banks, and they know this is a whole bureaucracy set up to make them more money and be more expensive to you as a client. Yes? And so that's, I find it very interesting. So Hugo, thank you very much. You will be seeing Hugo again and again. She's very busy. Okay, so let's go to my second. Ricardo, would you give me a help to get the second presentation over? Do you have a break or you don't have a break in between?
After yours, we have Alexandre, and then we have a break.
So I learned. Number 2.
I rename it.
Yeah,
But
okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, so when we are planning this thing, vou rápido.
Professor Ricardo, could you also share the screen on Zoom?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure.
Okay, when we are planning this thing, we have been now having several ESG projects, and we have been talking about ESG and etc. And I taught a class 2 semesters ago called exogenous variables. Abby likes it to call it outside variables. It's basically most of auditing, most of accounting is performed with data from the company. And I think, give it 20 years, most auditing will be performed with tertiary variables, and most accounting will be performed in shared basis, like in a blockchain and etc., where the risks of individual malfeasance are smaller. And so I think that this role of external variables, things like count of Google accesses, or what we are talking here about cell phone sensors, IoT sensors, or social media utterances. These things are going to be the most important sources of information. So we actually did this course, Exogenous Variables, basically PhD students, and we are going to publish a book on it. But I don't have enough articles for the book, so I'm waiting for teaching it next semester, and then going to put all together. And there's some very interesting websites. For example, a website that talks about employees, Glassdoor is called glassdoor.com, and ex-employees or current employees talking about their companies. And this is all very valuable, all just basically social media utterances, text mind, and et cetera, et cetera. So this is going to be very powerful information. And if you think about these external variables, and then you think about ESG reporting. ESG reporting is the Wild West, okay? Everyone reports ESG the way they want it. It's not like, I always think about ESG and I think about crypto now, meaning Bitcoin, etc. I already think I think about the old model of stock trading in the United States. You heard the word Wall Street. Wall Street is in downtown Manhattan where the New York Stock Exchange. But the Wall Street was a street with a wall. And the way stocks were traded is people sat in little banquillos, in little seats, and had pieces of paper, say, I get you 1,000 of my company, etc. And they traded money. That's how trading started. And then there was a big depression in the United States. And we discovered that many of those companies didn't exist. They just had little pieces of paper. So came in the regulation of Security Act of 33-34 that regulated the way you deal with stock. And progressively the SEC keeps adding with modern technologies and modern financial methods to regulate. And what I say about ESG and what I say about crypto is that we are going back to that. We still have, now it's not little benches, but it's internet websites. And you're inventing the rules until someone comes in and gives the rule. And you already see in countries like South Korea and China, some pretty good rules about protecting the investor, but not in the United States. Very slow, very, very slow. And so exogenous variables, I actually think that the future business report, not financial report exactly, is going to be a mix of financial reporting like we know today, but it's going to be much less backward oriented. You're really not interested what happened 3 years ago. You're interested in what's going to happen tomorrow, because that's why you're going to be trading your stock or buying your items. And so the reporting is going to be much more forward oriented, won't be as dependent on, like you, for example, today in fair value, you estimate what is the fair value. I don't think they're going to let you do that in the future, because you estimate what, when GE, when the last president of GE left, he had an estimate that gave him $4.5 billion to make GE profitable, Mr. Welsh, okay? And so his successor gets a company with these random estimates just to make themselves profitable. Look what happened with GE. Split into pieces, had to sell many of their assets because they were not viable. But it was within the laws to do your fair estimate. So I think we need independent fair estimate. And where are they going to come from? ESG, ESG estimates too. Where are they going to come from? They're going to come from exogenous variables. They're going to put variables that you cannot manipulate. So this is my introduction on exogenous variables. I'm very interested on this because it's the kind of thing that me as a researcher dreams of, a new field that you can do things very differently. And in our group, we do all this analytic stuff. You know, you'll see what Hugo will be talking about, satellite measurement of methane gas emissions. Okay, and so, and there are, one of the things we did in this class, I created a matrix, and the matrix has data, source of the data, and what can you use it for? And we could fill up hundreds and hundreds of these lines with usage like methane gas in the Permian Basin, satellite pictures, spectral measurements, and determining how much gas is being emitted. But there is a problem because satellites don't see very well at night. And so it can be, you have to create methodologies to make this estimate. The other thing I always say, and obviously it's a little bit self-serving, is I always say that point-in-time measurement, meaning what is my balance sheet in 31 of December, means nothing in this, in ESG. You can, well, in 30 of December, I close my factory or my extraction of oil for 1 day, and then I get 0 methane emissions. So it has to be a continuous measurement, and that's what they call continuous monitoring and continuous assurance. And some other things makes no sense to do it real time. Sometimes end of the month, sometimes end of the year, depends. Okay, but it kind of brings together unorthodox measurements that are not common, to real business practices. And this is very, very interesting what's happening. And actually, this is a little bit of a criticism of what has evolved in the world. Because if you look at this, these are ESG reports, and these are top 100 companies' revenue. And the main channel of ESG communication is the ESG report. This report typically is external, and you publish it in your website, okay? And as you can see, a large percentage of the companies are starting to, for legal reasons, issue ESG reports. And there is ratings by social media, which are exogenous variables. Now, the other interesting thing, and of course, I am in this committee called ASAC, Assurance Services Executive Committee of the American Institute of CPAs. And there we think about future products for CPAs. And if you don't know this, the audit market, KPMG, Deloitte, et cetera, is very flat. It hasn't been growing very much because it became so expensive to be a listed company in the US that many companies delist. They go to list somewhere else, or they become private. And so the market is very flat. The CPA firms are not making a lot of money in auditing, but they make a lot of money in consulting at this moment. And there are some firms that are more than 50% consulting, actually 70% consulting, and just depending on the firm. But from 1 second to the other, this market is going to explode because some countries are going to require validation, meaning audit of ESG reports. And this is actually the number of companies, percentage of the companies that report some kind of assurance. So the companies, and now the CPA firms are doing that to consulting. They are not doing it to the audit departments, at least most of them. But that's changing. Now, this is the real problem. These are standards. A little while ago, there were 17 different standards for ESG reporting. And you start thinking about this 17 standards. In the US for financial reporting, there is one standard, the SEC standard. Okay, and actually there are numbers of which standard and what percentage of the users reported that. GRI is the biggest one, 50. And there have been some mergers in standards, but still large numbers. So then you choose the standard you want, which is not good. Okay, and that's very interesting. I was in a committee, this is old story, that basically when during the crisis of 2003, 2004, markets in the United States, we created a committee to think about new forms of reporting at the ICPA. And at that time, there was inflation, et cetera, et cetera. And so we created this thing we call the Galileo model. That was, you're going to even see a picture of it. That was a different way of reporting, but still with internal data, no exogenous data. But what happened, the economy came back and people lost interest on creating new business reporting standards. But at that time, they had a thing called Wiki, they had a couple of things, and the SASB was created. And we thought that would be the SASB, but now we have 17 of these standards, and the Europeans are fighting with other people of who issues the standards, and the South Africans and British are pushing very hard, and they are ahead of the curve. So this is a big mess. But it's better to have a standard than not have. The other point that I wanted to make, and I'm going to run to this, is that you can't audit if you don't have a standard. What is auditing? Auditing is verifying if a particular set of numbers or particular set of information, that doesn't have to be numbers, is according to a set of rules. But you know, if you have 17 different standards, it's very difficult to figure out. The company will say, I'm recording according to a SASB or GRI, but the SASB also merged and etc. So it's very interesting what's happening. And I always say, this is Wall Street Security Act 33, 34 happening again, which is good. Yes.
Which are the main drivers that makes firms to choose one type or the other?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a very good question. Why do you do SASB, not GRI? Okay, we don't know. But I think it has to do also with what is your jurisdiction and what the government is telling you to do, or what your competition. Yes. I don't dar uma resposta.
Caramba, agora botou pressão. Não sei se eu tenho essa resposta tão forte assim, não. Mas eu acho que o principal ponto, e alguns desses frameworks, inclusive, estão sendo consolidados, né? O SASB, CDSB, o IRC, TCFD, alguns já estão sendo consolidados, principalmente na Fundação FRS, que está tratando da criação do ISSB agora. Mas tem um impacto muito grande das jurisdições, né? Porque a criação de um padrão de reporte, seja de sustentabilidade ou de informação financeira, ele não cria uma obrigação mandatória de aplicação em nenhuma jurisdição. Cada jurisdição ela ela, enfim, tem a responsabilidade por definir. No Brasil, por exemplo, a CVM, ela tem apoiado muito a criação do ISSB pela Fundação FRS, tem trabalhado muito com outros frameworks, mas ela não pode, por exemplo, se isentar de normatizar que você siga, por exemplo, determinado framework. Isso aconteceu com o IFRS em 2008, né? A aplicação de IFRS no Brasil dependeu de legislação no Congresso. É uma lei 11.638. Então, quando se trata de frameworks, geralmente cada jurisdição define sua preferência. Em UK, por exemplo, o TCFD já foi definido como framework que vai ser aplicado para entidades privadas e públicas. Provavelmente o TCFD vai ser o que vai ter uma proeminência maior, porque a Fundação FRS também tem focado num framework que é basicamente uma cópia do TCFD aplicado para o S e para o G também, né, além do meio ambiente. O GRI, ele tem sido muito utilizado nos últimos anos e colocado também por jurisdições e por reguladores de mercado de capitais em alguns países. Então, vem um pouco daí também o que o senhor comentou sobre a falta de comparabilidade, né? Os frameworks, eles são bons. Todos esses frameworks são bem reconhecidos. O SASB é muito bem reconhecido, simplesmente porque ele tem um aspecto um pouco mais próximo do contábil, que os outros não têm. O GRI é muito bem aceito, mas o problema não é o framework, é a dificuldade de comparabilidade entre as entidades, na medida que cada uma define aquela que eventualmente cabe melhor no seu ambiente. Quando você fala de informação, a informação ela é utilizada para a tomada de decisão do usuário. Então, uma informação que ela é boa, mas não é comparável, não permite tomar decisão, porque tomar decisão envolve você analisar variáveis, possibilidades e escolher a mais apropriada. A grosso modo, pensando na contabilidade, no passado a gente tinha empresas brasileiras, por exemplo, que eram de capital aberto também nos Estados Unidos, que reportavam no Brasil para a CVM no BR-GAAP, reportavam nos Estados Unidos para a SEC em US-GAAP e reportavam eventualmente para alguma controladora europeia em IFRS. E eu cheguei a ver exemplos de empresas que tinham lucro num framework, prejuízo no outro, margem de 10% em um framework, 15% no outro. Então, o problema ele não é necessariamente o framework, ele é a definição de um framework que seja não necessariamente único, mas compatível entre as entidades. Então, cada regulador local tem estabelecido uma preferência. O TCFD, eu diria que, by far, tem sido o framework preferido, menos nos Estados Unidos, né, que eles têm o seu próprio mundo da SEC, mas internacionalmente o TCFD tem sido muito colocado. E eu, particularmente, acho, aí é a opinião mesmo, que o IRC, né, o Integrated Reporting, vai ser provavelmente um que vai ganhar mais espaço, porque tem uma expectativa de você começar a juntar nos seus relatórios essas informações de uma maneira única, para a sua tomada de decisão ser baseada basicamente em um único relatório que envolva contábil, reporte financeiro e sustentabilidade. Então, é um projeto grande, por exemplo, da Fundação IFRS, focar nos próximos anos no Integrated Reporting, que já foi anexado também ao ISSB.
Professor Miklos?
Só fazer um comentário
Ricardo,
rápido.
desculpa.
Fala, Alexandre.
Não,
Fala,
depois eu faço, Ricardo. Só queria complementar um ponto rápido, mas...
Agora fala, Alexandre.
E tudo bom, Patrick? Bom te ver aí, cara. Infelizmente eu não consegui estar aí com vocês. E, assim, complementando o que o Patrick falou, e só um dado, né? Eu acho que a COP27, com a criação do Fundo Internacional de ESG para a questão climática, vai fazer com que o dinheiro acabe criando um framework mais utilizado por todos os países e um segundo, no máximo, framework e normas a partir do ISSB. Então, com o recurso financeiro e com os investimentos mundiais em projetos, principalmente climáticos, você vai ter naturalmente os mercados de capitais buscando uma maior comparabilidade para poder saber onde investir, se no Brasil, se nos Estados Unidos, ou na Europa, África, e assim vai. Então, acho que esse movimento da COP27 agora do Egito, de novembro, vai criar um estímulo muito grande ao mercado de obrigar a ter, no máximo, um framework. Eu acho que o norma, enfim, o normatizador como o ISSB, provavelmente, já reunindo SASB, TCFD e tudo mais, e um segundo, no máximo, que pode vir da SEC, mas que eu acho que vai também utilizar o ISSB. Era só isso, Ricardo.
Eu vou tentar. A gente pode passar esse microfone.
Isso, boa. Só fazer um comentário aqui, Miklos, aproveitar. essa imagem que você traz para a gente é a estatística dos Estados Unidos, é isso? Ou do IFRAG, da Europa?
Estatística das 100 maiores empresas que são internacionais.
Tá. É porque a OCDE vai apresentar um relatório semana que vem sobre uma questão semelhante a essa da América Latina, que a gente trabalhou juntos. E aqui na América Latina, o GRI e o CIESG são os grandes campeões, são os mais utilizados pelas empresas da região. E tem detalhe o seguinte, tem empresas que declaram no relatório que o relatório foi elaborado em conformidade com o GRI, o CIESG e o TCFD. Então, tem algumas empresas que declaram que está em conformidade com 2 ou 3 frameworks, agora os frameworks que são diferentes, que são complementares, não é a ideia que um é melhor do que o outro, mas de fato são complementares, têm premissas diferentes, inclusive com relação à materialidade, o que torna um processo bastante mais complexo, né? Se adotar um framework desse já não é simples, imagina adotar 2 ou 3 ao mesmo tempo. E depois a firma de auditoria que vai fazer o assurance, auditar uma informação que foi elaborada em conformidade com mais de um desses frameworks. Não é nada simples, mas obrigado, Miklos. Vai lá.
Não, mas é isso mesmo. Aliás, é um comentário válido.
Desculpa, só para aproveitar e fazer um comentário rápido também, e nessa linha, Ricardo, no Brasil, por exemplo, para as empresas de capital aberto, já em março de 23, né, quando foi publicada a primeira ITR, na verdade já aplicava a partir de 1º de janeiro, as empresas vão ter que incluir no seu formulário de referência aspectos ESG que são baseados no TCFD, inclusive no conceito pratique ou explique, ou seja, se você não aplica esses conceitos que são do TCFD, você precisa explicar o porquê você deixou de fazer isso. E muitas empresas de capital aberto no Brasil, não sei se está para dizer a maioria, eu imaginaria ser a maioria, mas elas publicam o relatório baseado em GRI, e que tem suas particularidades também, e que não são necessariamente iguais ao TCFD. O TCFD é um framework focado em clima, e não à toa ele tem sido, inclusive, escolhido como o preferido em muitas jurisdições por causa da urgência do clima. O ISSB é um bom exemplo. O ISSB está se apoiando inicialmente no TCFD, por quê? Porque o clima é um assunto urgente. Dentro do ESG foi avaliado como o mais urgente, e onde você tem um framework bem estabelecido, bem conhecido, que pode facilitar o processo de implementação. Uma norma, usando talvez o exemplo do IASB, né, que é o irmão do ISSB, mas que segue um due process parecido. Uma norma contábil, ela leva alguns anos para ser emitida. O IFRS 9 começou a ser discutido de instrumentos financeiros um pouco após a crise, 2007, 2008, dos mercados, principalmente dos subprimes. E a norma passou a ser aplicada mais de 10 anos depois. Então, passa-se um período de pesquisa, depois um período de outreach com os participantes do mercado, depois um período de criação de documentos, exposure drafts, até a norma vir efetivamente e ficar vigente, você tem um período que pode levar uns 6, 7 anos. Então, quando a gente fala da identificação de um aspecto, nesse caso climático, que é tido como talvez o mais urgente dentro do ESG, a ideia de se aplicar o conceito do TCFD é para cortar esse caminho. O ISSB, por exemplo, desde a sua criação até a criação de um exposure draft e a vigência da norma que é esperada para o período próximo, talvez no máximo meados do ano que vem, a gente tem talvez 2 anos e meio, que é um período muito curto para a criação de uma norma. Então, isso também entra um pouco nessas decisões de quais frameworks se aplicar, ou seja, a urgência, a aplicabilidade, conhecimento do framework e o aspecto que ela endereça, sendo mais ou menos urgente. E aí, quando a gente fala das outras necessidades, a gente vai entrar em alguns aspectos que criam também dificuldades para as empresas. A SEC está trabalhando numa norma. E quando a gente fala da norma da SEC, quem está acompanhando sabe que ali virou uma discussão talvez até mais política do que efetivamente de interesse no reporte. Tem grupos de políticos, senadores, representantes públicos de diversas correntes diferentes, seja partidária ou ideológica, que já esclareceram e formalizaram a SEC que eles vão entrar com litígios assim que a norma seja emitida. Então, existe uma incerteza muito grande aí. Então, você pensa no ambiente de uma empresa global brasileira, que ela faz GRI, historicamente tem feito, vai ter que aplicar conceito de TCFD, dependendo de onde ela atua no globo. Quem atua, por exemplo, na Inglaterra, em UK, já vai ter que fazer TCFD agora em 2024. Ela provavelmente vai ter que fazer um set separado para SEC. Então, aí fica um pouco desse desafio também de como é que você consegue convergir tudo isso para algo que tenha custo-benefício para a entidade, que não tenha custo excessivo na preparação, e que você, obviamente, traga o benefício para o usuário na comparabilidade da informação. Né?
Correto, quer dizer, eu ia bem levantar isso, quer dizer, isso me faz pensar de novo em Wall Street, na parede, e faz pensar também, vocês são jovens, mas a criação dos padrões internacionais de contabilidade. O que foi? Um monte de países, cada um com o seu padrão, que coalesceram em uma direção. Mas os americanos disseram, é muito complicado mudar, a gente vai convergir. Mas eles não convergiram. Alguns padrões eles acabaram fazendo o mesmo, mas os outros não fizeram. E isso vai continuar, e vai continuar pior com os padrões de ESG. E ainda mais que o SASB tem 70 padrões, um por indústria. E você vai botar 70 em uma dimensão por indústria e vai botar 160 países na outra dimensão e finalmente você vai botar a conveniência, os grupos econômicos. E isso me leva a outra discussão que eu falei anteriormente. As companhias dos Estados Unidos estão delisting, estão largando serem companhias públicas porque é muito caro. Agora tem que obedecer esses padrões. E a outra coisa que eu sempre digo, em inglês, consolidation is obfuscation. Se você pega um banco e soma a uma firma industrial, acaba com nada que não é comparável, porque o seu banco na GE era 40%, outra firma de raio-x, distribuição elétrica, tinha o diabo. Soma esse negócio, não dá para comparar com ninguém. Quer dizer, comparabilidade. A outra coisa é que os padrões são orientados eu chamo pencil and paper, papel e lápis. Eles são orientados, eles não falam na tecnologia moderna, que você pode consolidar para cada situação diferente usando uma planilha. Quer dizer, esses padrões são baseados no Frade Luca Pacioli, em 1493, que eram as obrigações. É muito interessante ver um professor na Escócia, chamado Alan Sangster, falando sobre a história da contabilidade. Porque ele diz, nos anos 1200, os venezianos tinham contabilidade para estabelecer uma obrigação legal. Você pegou o dinheiro emprestado, está registrado em algum lugar, por escrito. Já em 1400, 1500, quando Pacioli emitiu, o interesse era administrar a sua empresa, administrar os seus empréstimos, administrar a sua linha de produção, supply chain. Esse era o problema. The problem, vou voltar para o inglês para gravar. The problem now is that the business objectives that you have are very different than what they were in the 1400s or in the 1200s. And we still use double entry. We still use the old methods. And so it becomes very, very difficult to do something that's meaningful for everyone. And remember, auditors need to have rules to see if the person followed the rules. If there are 17 rules, you choose the rule you want to use, that you look the best. And so that's what they call greenwashing, pinkwashing, and etc. It's a problem in every direction. And I have no doubt that there is going to be convergence. There is going to be a decrease. But what they are not changing, that they really need to change, is this mentality of double entry, the Pacioli mentality. Because that's not the objective of reporting. If you read Milton Friedman, 50 years ago or more, Milton Friedman said the objective of the enterprise is make money. Everything is about profit. But the objective today of the enterprise is ESG, etc., etc. So we need to rethink what we record, how we record, and especially how we validate. And I would say we are not talking about accounting and auditing. We are talking about business measurement and data validation. The other thing I always say is the distance between the manager or the CEO, Ricardo, and the data is getting bigger and bigger. So the problem of bad representation is the problem of auditing is going to increase. And it's not going to get less. And the auditors are very worried that individual judgment is going to disappear and everything will be electronized. And it is going to be electronized, but judgment will not disappear. And Ricardo will need an accountant to explain to him what his data means and what is it telling. So that's why we need to change our education. We need to make our students explanators, not bookkeepers. And we need to do our auditors verifiers, not by the rule auditors, people that understand and are independent. And of course, all the thing we do with Swarm and etc. is directed to create the digital auditor, the digital accountant. Okay, so I am already over my time nearly, and Ricardo, I still have 10 minutes, don't I? Thank you. Okay, and so on the ESG, this is the other question, is why ESG? E is measuring environmental impact. Social is anything you want, pretty much. And governance is very different from country to country, from industry to industry. Putting them together, like the old social reporting, is complicated. And that's a research question we're always asking. And so questions here. Why E associated to S and G? How do we deal with exactly, you already raised a multitude of standards. Reporting the way you want to report it is very common. But meaning a company wants to show the best picture they have. And if they have many alternatives, they'll show whatever they want. Now, this is a continuous auditing, continuous monitoring question. Is what is, when people are, meaning I've done the continuous auditing work now for nearly 40 years, since 82, 83 at Bell Labs. Okay, and at that time, I always said the reporting and the measure and the audit has to be with according the pulse of the application, o pulso da aplicação. Why? Because we used to measure telephone calls close to real time. Every 2 hours there was a download from the switch, but the report or the billing was monthly. So you needed the real time there was monthly, either nearly real time or monthly, and the annual report was annual or quarterly report. So the rhythms are different. And of course, when you are measuring the emissions of methane, which Hugo is going to talk about, you are measuring continuously, but you're not measuring continuously because your satellites don't see in the dark or when there are clouds. So this is very, very complicated, and there'll be a lot of ad hoc solutions. Now, teaching ad hoc solutions to students is nearly impossible. There are millions of rules. How can you teach? However, today databases, computers exist that can create 100 different rules, 100,000 different rules, and they are reasonably formal. But we're still taking Pacioli, double entry, etc., which doesn't work. So that's really what I'm talking about written. And then the thing you raise, each country is different. And you know, it's I always find this very interesting. I'm going to say something very non-politically correct here. Okay, but be patient with me. Meaning I see in the US, everyone blasting Brazil about deforestation in the Amazon. Okay, and they're right. We shouldn't be deforesting the Amazon. But what right have the Americans to say that? What did they do to the Midwest? What did they do to the forests in California, etc.? Same thing, exactly. They went in there and cleaned up the land. So, you know, we can't be very sanctimonious about these things. You have to think about what's good for the countries. So I'm going to finish up. I want to give Hugo a little bit of time to talk about measuring with satellites, which is very interesting. But we have a meeting every Friday morning, and this Friday, yeah, they have a meeting without me on ESG. And from there, we have a pile of different projects coming out. You're going to hear about the OECD project. And you're going to hear about Yugu's project. Yugu's project wasn't exactly out of this domain. She started it when she was first-year student. Now it's pretty much ready to be published or published already, pretty close to there. But it kind of falls into the domain. So one project is basically Miyun and Nicole, and they are looking at applying AI in different forms of ESG assurance. The second one is actually a natural language process text mining project, trying to homogenize a little bit, understand how different the standards are from each other. There are two actually papers already written on that. Very interesting project. The OECD, I'm not going to say anything because Ricardo and the team is going to talk later about that. And we actually have a couple of other projects, but I'm going to stop here because I'm running out of my time, and I'm going to let Yugu share her screen and show this very, very interesting. Yugu actually got a satellite company to give us some sample data to show how this is. It's spectacular. That's why I didn't want to interfere with it. So Yugu, you want to take it over? Oh, I just want to say one more thing. Basically, the reason I want to talk about this is about exogenous variables. I think future reporting and future ESG reporting, they're all going to be mainly exogenous variable basis. And I think today I have a few slides also talking about exogenous variables. But Yugu, we are all yours.
Yugu, do you want to share your screen?
Yes. Also, how many minutes do I have?
Okay,
Because
so it's
I
up
don't
to you.
want to run over time. Yeah, so this project basically using satellite images to estimate methane emission to improve ESG assurance. Because currently companies, they report the emissions by themselves. They may choose like they maybe some like manipulation there. And so I will skip this like motivation. So like to increase the credibility of ESG reports, we need ESG assurance. Like there's only 51 ESG assurance currently of the world. So we will try to use like external data or other technology to improve the ESG assurance. And this is Audit for All, which is developed by Professor Junda and Professor Miklos, which using technologies in Industry for All to like get the data from physical world and analysis and continuous audit the data in the mirror world. It's kind of like metaverse. Here we design our Audit for All based ESG assurance, and we have two objectives: is to like first verify ESG report from numerical data and textual claim, and we also propose continuous assurance by creating a dashboard and propose a new ESG metrics. So here's an example of numeric data from BP. This is coming from oil and gas industry in the UK. And you can see they disclose the methane emissions on a yearly basis. So you can basically see a trend here. And this is very aggregated data here. And for texture claim, they in their ES report, they will say, they adopt an advanced technology in a specific area to reduce the methane emissions. So we can basically, if we can have the technology to put in this area and estimate the emission directly, that we can verify the textual claim. So here's our design. we also follow the core idea of physical world and the mirror world, and we use different technologies.
Hugo, can I say one thing here? If you look at this comes out of a paper that Jundai and myself wrote easily 5 years ago. And what Jundai came out with this analogy with Industry 4.0 generated in Germany about 6-7 years ago. And I added some terminology to it, which is the real world and then the mirror world, the world that measures the real world. And there are several layers. And then the paper was Audit 4.0, applying the concept of Industry 4.0 into auditing. And that time was just a set of ideas. But now there is some reality to it. Go ahead, Hugo. Sorry.
Yeah, so we can extract the data like using satellite or drones, Internet of Things, or social media information online, or geographic information systems, or ERP, or web crawling to get the data from the physical world. Then we can perform some functions like predictive analysis, or have a monitoring dashboard, or perform like investigation on specific transactions or emissions, like substantive tests. And for the reporting layer, we can have a continuous assurance dashboard for the auditors and send smart alerts. If the emissions above the threshold, the alerts can be sent to the employees or managers, and also like hospital maybe. And they'll have like assured integrated reports combining the financial information and the ESG information. And there are we have 5 steps for the verifying process: decide the assertion, select technology, obtain data, and perform functional analysis, finally report it. So we have we follow traditional 6 assertion here, and we also have 3 special ESG assertions, like no anomalies, no deviation from peers, and no suspicious patterns. I will introduce it further later. And we also have some examples here, like to verifying a specific section environment using like satellite images to see the damage to the natural resources, such as water pollution, deforestation. And we can also cross-verifying like environmental and social together, like in satellite imagery of pollution to compare population changes in local communities. And here I'm going to introduce you how to use the satellite images to estimate methane emissions as an illustration for our design. So first, we follow the 5 steps. First, select the ESG items and assertions. So here we focus on methane because it's the greenhouse gas emission is the most important part of environment, and methane is 25 times of the greenhouse effect than the carbon dioxide, CO2. Currently, there are 2 methods to report greenhouse gas emission. The first one is accounting method, using a statistical way to calculate the emission using like how much raw materials consumed multiplied by emission factor. So the management can like easily change the number and manipulate the data. The second way is the continuous monitoring method, but it uses sensors in the internal system to monitor the real-time emissions. It's still subject to manipulations. Here is a scandal by Volkswagen. They are accused of using illegal software to cover up excessive emissions. And then we try to select the assertions. So we try to use perform the 3 ESG special assertions. Company do not have abnormal methane emissions, and company methane emissions do not significantly deviate from their peer companies, and whether companies have the special patterns on emissions. And we also found a relevant regulation right now from Environmental Protection Agency, agencies that they say in the future they will require companies to eliminate venting of associated gas from oil wells and require owners and operators to route the gas to the self-line where available, which means they will not be allowed to emit methane into air. All the methane needs to go to the self-line. So if there's a detect methane emission, so that will be illegal. And the second step, we decide on the technology. Here we use satellite imaging technologies. We get the data from a Canadian commercial satellite companies. They launched the satellites which can embedded with the sensors which can estimate the methane emissions, and we get the data. So this data is estimate emissions in Permian Basin in the United States, including Texas and New Mexico states. And this we only have 1 month data, and it's by second. The frequency is by second. So we import the data into Tableau, so we can directly say, because we have longitude and altitude data, we can directly load the emission record here. So you can see the red dot is estimate with methane emissions, but the blue dot, which means there's no emission detected. So this is assertion we can perform, like using Tableau to find the abnormal methane emissions. And also we can get the peer company if we can use satellite data. Usually the ES reports is released on yearly basis, so you cannot like continuous compare with peer forms. So we can like get the sum of the emissions and compare with the audited companies. And we can also have the day-to-day variation to detect whether this company have a special emission pattern. For example, in company 213, they may emit at the end of the month. So auditors may have like pay more attention at the end of the month. And the final step is to report. We can like establish a dashboard, including all the assertion I just talked about into the dashboard. And we can, when we click the data, they also have the interactive functions. When we click the data, you can show all the related information about this data. And we can also provide the dashboard for internal auditors, which can have some like error rate. So because internal auditors may more focus on like the performance of the advanced technology they adopt to see how efficiency of this new technology. They may, but for the external auditors, they may not need the error rate because they are more conservative. And we do have some limitation here. Due to the maturity of the required technology, the accuracy is not very high. Like when there's cloudy, windy, it's difficult to like get using satellite to take the pictures. And it's not real time because these satellites can only take pictures in the day. Companies may choose to emit at night. But when you use other technology like synthetic aperture radar, they can take pictures on 24/7. And our study is still a proof of concept. We didn't consider the cost benefit analysis. So yeah, that's all about how to use satellite images to estimate methane emissions.
Thank you, Hugo. Just, while you were talking, occurred to me that even this is a tremendous evolution, because you are talking about two methods that evolved in the measurement all the way earlier. And I was thinking now with visual recognition software, you can actually recognize objects and their movement. There is a paper by David Wood from Brigham Young University, and there's a case that you can download from the NY website, whereby they are measuring cows and sheep in ranches. They take satellite picture, in this case, drone pictures, and then they use an AI counting device to count how many sheep they have there. So they are now using images and verifying the images. So it's an enhancement. The other thing that Hugo was talking, there are two other technological innovation you can do. You can put some of these algorithms on a blockchain and not being tampered like we are described, like Hugo described in the former paper. So that would be another form of technology built into that. And now, just maybe 2 years ago, the Department of Defense declassified the technology, was in the January session of the Technology Review of the Economist, whereby you pick up images of several satellites, and then you bypass the problem of night not being or cloud coverages. And so this was using only for military application. I'm sure they are using it now in Russia and etc. And so what you are having is progressive technologies evolving, and out of the technology you can apply it for measuring business, for assuring business. However, the rules of Pacioli don't work very well for that. Ricardo twice mentioned the word materiality. And how do you measure materiality of cows? And how do you measure materiality on a continuous measurement as opposed to year-end 5% on net income? So this concept, and by the way, the Europeans now are talking about double materiality, and which is in the ESG domain. They are trying to adapt the concept. I want to tell one little story here that's not a very nice story, but it's worth talking. In the ASEC, which I mentioned before, now they're creating the SOC rules, which are additional auditing standards for special situations. So they created SOC 1, SOC 2, and then supply chain SOC, and now they were creating another SOC for cybersecurity. And what they try to do is to adapt the auditing standards to cybersecurity. And so basically they're issuing an opinion which has year end. So how can you say I'm cyber secure in December 31st? What does that mean? Mean nothing. Okay, you have to have a continuous cybersecurity. The other thing is 0-1. Is like auditing. Is it a qualified statement or is it a clean statement? How can you say that in security? If Hilal lends to her husband her computer and gives her computer password to her husband, she is violating cybersecurity and creating, and that's a tiny violation, not a huge breach. Okay, so you can't do 0-1, and you can't do materiality. How do you materiality cybersecurity? Thinking about the impact. So you have to change the rules and do things differently. So I'm going to stop here because I already overran my time substantially. By the way, Hugo's paper is available if you want, and several of these things already have drafts that we can share, and I can share some of the exogenous variable stuff, and there is a paper on exogenous variables that's published.
Obrigado, Miklos. Qual é a pergunta, Matheus? O paper. Bom, tenho que tratar com vocês uma questão bem pragmática, né? Estamos meia hora atrasados. O atraso se dá por várias razões. A primeira foi o problema de conexão aqui no microfone, que aí adiou um pouquinho o início, e depois eu não vou dizer que o professor Miklos se empolgou, eu vou dizer que eu programei equivocadamente o tempo da fala dele. claro. A culpa é toda minha, sem dúvida nenhuma, mas obrigado, Miklos, mais uma vez, realmente foi muito bom, e o debate, e a conversa, e a provocação da pergunta do Matheus, que gerou aqui uma palestra paralela, né? Uma conversa, Alexandre, Patrick, outros colegas, até eu me empolguei, então agradeço muito aí a participação de todos. O que eu quero dizer é o seguinte, Alexandre, nós temos meia hora nessa nossa apresentação, a gente tinha combinado 20 para você e 10 para mim, então eu vou fazer o seguinte, eu vou fazer a minha fala... Eu vou falar, fazer minha fala em 2 minutos. Tá, beleza. Vou fazer a minha fala em 2 minutos. Você toma o teu tempo, entre 10 e 20. E aí, pessoal, a gente tem 15 de intervalo. A gente pode fazer 10, só para basicamente uma manutenção hidráulica, né? Porque a gente tem a comida aqui dentro, o café aqui dentro. E depois tem um almoço de 1h30 daqui a pouco. Então, se vocês me permitirem, a gente reorganizar dessa forma. A única coisa que eu quero apresentar aqui, Alexandre, antes de passar a palavra para você, é comentar rapidamente sobre o centro de pesquisa. Que eu espero que vocês estejam vendo a tela agora. Beleza? Esse aqui é o site da escola, onde tem um centro de pesquisa, e nós criamos, no início do ano passado, o Comitê de Informação ESG.
Desse ano.
Oi?
Início desse ano.
Início desse ano. Obrigado, que já estamos em dezembro, né? Nossa. Obrigado, Alexandre. Então, no início desse ano, a gente criou um Comitê de Informação ESG para discutir pesquisa e desenvolver pesquisa na área. Fiquei muito feliz em ver, eu já sabia de alguns projetos do time lá do Miklos, na Rutgers, não sabia de todos os projetos, como o Miklos apresentou aqui, e eu fico muito feliz em ver que vários colegas que participam conosco no CIESG estão aqui hoje. Então, além do Alexandre que vai falar, tem o Patrick, tem o José Vitor, tem a Selma e vários colegas que, portanto, participaram. A gente teve uma atuação menos ativa que eu gostaria, mas a esperança é que a gente consiga entrar de novo e com mais afinco agora nesse ano. E o outro ponto que eu quero simplesmente colocar aqui é a felicidade de ter o nosso comitê, nosso Advisory Board, e aqui hoje nós temos, então, 2 membros do nosso comitê consultivo, além, claro, do professor Miklos, o Alexandre, a quem eu passo a palavra agora. Então, Alexandre, eu paro aqui o compartilhamento, está contigo. Eu acho que eu falei 3 minutos. Fica contigo aí o tempo. Obrigado, Alexandre.
I will speak in English, Ricardo, to facilitate and to make it easier to you, not to Miklos, because Miklos, he speaks very well in Portuguese. I didn't know that, but I did my speech in English. I have just some words to say about the CIESG, the ESG Information Committee, which is held by the Applied Research Center. And I'm proud, of course, to be part of the advisory board. In 2020, when the IFRS Foundation did a public consultation asking if it should create a new board to do the rules for sustainability reporting for public companies, as you well know ESG, or if the ESG itself should formulate some or these standards, I began to realize that something new was on the table in the rules. Money, a lot of money. Of course, unfortunately, because it was just raised from the need to save the world, the climate problem, as you all know. Since the public consultation carried out by the IFRS Foundation, until the COP 2016 last year, né, the UN
Alexandre, fala pouquinho mais alto, se você conseguir, por favor.
Melhora sem o... Melhora assim?
Muito, obrigado, hein?
Tá, porque estava com barulho aqui no vizinho de obra, mas parou agora. So, the climate problem that In the COP 2016 with the UN Climate Conference occurred last year, the ISSB board was announced. After that, or instead of that, I started to study the behavior of the capital markets in relation to ESG investments. I knew that if investors actually started investing in sustainable debt or equity, they would allow the environmental and social part of ESG to grow, which fortunately is now happening. My studies showed what I had been waiting and predicting for years, and the numbers showed that investments in ESG had grown a lot, and new financial instruments such as carbon credits were created to finance the salvation of the world and our main problem, the greenhouse effect, the world climate problem, as I said. In that way, we constituted the CIESG committee to bridge the gap between academia and practice for developing research topics concerning preparing and analyzing sustainability information released by companies and government entities. We also aim with CIESG to contribute to developing norms and standards to be met by public companies. In practice, CIESG committee can contribute both in how to register the company's ESG projects in the sustainability reports, or in how to better understand how to register the carbon credits generated by companies in their financial statements. I will show, Ricardo, I will share with you here 2 slides. Can you see, Ricardo?
Almost. I
Almost.
hope you'll be able to see it soon. It's black
Let's.
screen. But you can continue presenting, and technology will allow you to see it.
You can see my.
Not yet. Only a black
Not
screen.
yet. I don't know what's happening. And now?
Faz o seguinte. Okay, now it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a minute, please. Let me. Okay. You can see the green finance.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Go forward.
Okay. Just a little bit because I can't see here. I try to do this. Okay. Okay. So you can see that the sustainable bond market, it's on the top now. We have a lot of increase in this market, and I can see now that just not the sustainable bond markets had this increase to 767 billion in the first 3 quarters of 2021, but also the carbon market increased a lot to 760 billion in carbon credits. We mean that 164% of increase of this kind of market. Because of that, we believe that, Professor Miklos, we will also need comparable information to stand all these markets between investors and companies to invest and to finance the ESG projects, okay? Because of that, we believe that when you have these strong markets coming, and now the fund from COP27, investors no longer have to choose between making a profit or getting to help make the world a better place. Finance is also becoming ESG, which stands for environmental, social, and also governance. This new wave comes with a lot of change, and companies are learning how to play this game. Because of that, Professor Miklos, I said that the money, okay, will make something different now to the future for comparability of information, and for the materiality of the information, okay? The COP26 on last year generated a new milestone for companies. Sustainable finance information is becoming mandatory for companies to disclose in order to have access to capital. That's the difference. But to gain access to this capital, they will require integrated and real information from organizations. The sustainability report is just the beginning. There will have to be commitment from the companies and financial reports linked to those of sustainability. But much more important than that, it has to be a true ESG organization. IFRS had the ability to timely create the ISSB board to make it easier to disclose that the company respects and adopts ESG factors. The CIESG committee also came to support Brazilian companies to implement the new ISSB standards and the new international frameworks, and of course, to facilitate the financing ESG projects by investors. We aim to support companies to do it. In the regulatory field, IOSCO, committee of the International Committee of the Securities and Exchange Commissions of several countries, like Brazil and US, is working together with the IFRS Foundation to elaborate the ISSB standards. Here, CVM, our SEC, has already promoted change to the reference form, forcing companies to prepare the sustainability report, or inform whether their information is audited or assuranced, and identifying the model adopted in this preparation. CIESG committee brought together specialists from companies and academia. I thank José Vitor, Selma, and Patrick, who is here in our colloquium, okay, and participate of CIESG committee. That said, now investors will be able to see if a company only discloses its sustainability or if it's really committed to it. Let's wait to see, of course, the results of that. But however, it's a fact that it will be very difficult for companies to continue to finance themselves without concrete ESG projects. We have now a lot of money coming from abroad to Brazil and all over the world. We have now a different way to finance projects, and without ESG, now you don't have so much money to finance that or to invest in the projects of a company. Okay, but to understand better what other ESG fields can be entered, we think that CIESG committee is working with. We have to understand better how works the sustainable finance. To understand better this, we think that, Ricardo, we have to do a lot of research, credit carbon instruments, how we are going to account that, how we are going to understand better how to register the information, okay? How to create more comparability, how to create more essential information, financial statements. I mean, Ricardo, I did a resume here, okay? What CIESG does. I don't share with your think that we didn't do so much this year, because we did what we had in our hand, and now we have to go to the research, we have to go to study more. Now ISSB put in a public consultation 2 documents. We answered 2 documents and a framework of SEC. More than that, we waited for more. We are waiting for more from ISSB SEC, other frameworks to work more. But I think our project as CIESG committees, we have to go straight on the research. We have to go straight to study more what the investors want to see in the financial statement, the sustainability reporting, and carry on our studies and research. Okay, Ricardo?
Thank you, Alexandre. It's a matter of expectations, whether we did as much as I expect we would do or not. But I agree with you, we did quite well. I do hope that we will be more active next year. And Patrick, yes, please.
Para mim, tanto faz. Pessoal, português ou inglês? Eu não sei como.
Eu só falei inglês porque eu achei que o Miklos fosse.
Vamos...
Pode falar em português.
Não, só para aproveitar uma fala sua, Alexandre, talvez seja uma informação que alguns aqui achem interessante. Contabilização de especial crédito de carbono, né, esses instrumentos que a gente tem visto, e também os passivos, né, das obrigações que as empresas têm assumido de descarbonização, é um tema que não é tratado em detalhe nas normas internacionais de contabilidade por reflexo aqui no CPC também não, no Brasil. Mas a gente criou, né, eu digo a gente, eu como membro do CPC também, um grupo de trabalho há aproximadamente 3 meses envolvendo membros do CPC, representantes da CVM, Banco Central, Abraço, que, enfim, algumas outras entidades de classe que participam no CPC, discutindo uma normatização que provavelmente deve sair como uma OCPC, tratando da contabilização de créditos de carbono, contabilização mesmo, né, de emoções financeiras, enfim, aqui no Brasil, que esteja alinhada com as IFRS, e também reconhecimento e mensuração dos passivos assumidos por uma entidade quando ela se posiciona de maneira específica e clara com a obrigação de fazer a descarbonização. Então, muito provavelmente, algum documento deve começar a ser draftado, inclusive eu vou fazer ele passar pelo CIESG também, para a gente colher comentários durante o período de consulta pública, que a CVM abre para consulta pública, né, sempre que uma norma vai ser editada, e muito provavelmente para meados do ano que vem, talvez alguma coisa esteja disponível. Então, muitas empresas, né, têm sido questionadas, auditores estão participando também desse grupo, esqueci de comentar, mas muitas empresas têm sido questionadas sobre contabilização desses itens que não tem ainda uma definição clara, né? Então, pelo menos aqui no Brasil, em breve a gente deve ter algum documento para consulta pública, e nas conversas com o pessoal do IASB, na normatização internacional, eles fecharam já o plano de trabalho dos próximos 4 anos, né? Tem 3 grandes prioridades, né? Uma, na minha opinião, 2 muito acertadas, que é a contabilização de intangíveis e caixa equivalente de caixa, são normas que estão entre as 2 mais antigas do IASB, talvez as 2 que tenham tido maior avanço tecnológico, né, nos últimos anos. Então, essas normas vão ser revistas, atualizadas, é um grande passo. Mas um terceiro tópico que não entrou na agenda obrigatoriamente, mas está como um item reserva, que o pessoal do IASB já comentou, é tratar também de contabilização de carbono. Então, possivelmente, se tiver espaço na agenda do IASB, muito provavelmente depois de 2024, por volta de 2025, talvez, é capaz que entre também na agenda normatizadora do IASB. Mas aqui no Brasil, ano que vem, provavelmente a gente vai ter também já uma orientação para publicar.
Ricardo, se você me permite, só além do que o Patrick colocou, fazer mais uma colocação, né? O Banco Central está muito avançado, Patrick, na questão da contabilização. Na semana passada, né, ele soltou um normativo em que, na verdade, ele assim, coloca alguns pontos de contabilização ali, ainda não está completamente fechado, mas no que tange à instituição financeira, ele já começa a cobrir, né?
Definiu já o plano de contas. Né?
Isso mesmo. E antes disso, né, o que o Banco Central está bem adiantado? Né? Ele incluiu na matriz de risco os riscos ambientais, climáticos e sociais, né? Além dos já existentes operacionais de mercado.
Eu posso até comentar também, eu acho que eu falei isso, pessoal, o Banco Central, me fugiu agora o nome do representante, mas ele também é parte desse grupo de trabalho, E a gente discutiu, inclusive, nas últimas reuniões, o que o Banco Central estava fazendo, e a tendência é que não seja um direcionamento muito diferente do que a gente está caminhando, né? As definições que, se vocês verem as definições do Banco Central, talvez são um pouquinho mais macros, mas elas vão no caminho bem próximo do que, eventualmente, a gente vai ter nessa normatização que deve sair, né? De novo, como a CPC, talvez, ano que vem.
Assim, esse ponto, Patrick, do Banco Central é interessante pelo seguinte, porque o Banco Central, no que tange a questão do IFRS, ele foi um dos mais atrasados, né? E no que tange a questão de ESG, ele realmente entrou para incentivar o mercado, a financiar, grosso modo, a facilitar o financiamento via projetos ESG no Brasil. E é uma das regulações, eu fiz um estudo bem amplo, eu estou trabalhando hoje com 8 bancos fazendo essa atualização de toda a sua governança no que tange a questão de matriz de risco. Vai entrar agora num 9º banco que eu vou trabalhar também. E o que a gente percebe é que no mundo, né, não existe uma regulação bancária tão elevada quanto a nossa. E aí, doutor Miklos, se você quiser incluir esse item no research, mas é um ponto também interessante, Ricardo, para a gente pensar em pesquisa, fazer uma pesquisa realmente das regulações, das mudanças regulatórias bancárias mundiais, sejam dos bancos centrais, claro, Banco Central, no caso brasileiro, Conselho Monetário Nacional, parte de seguros também, aqui está começando a também ter um avanço bem grande, mas é uma linha de pesquisa bem interessante para a gente tratar no nosso centro, Ricardo, ou pela própria Rutgers, olhando uma visão mundial.
Sim. Na parceria, certamente. A partnership between FGV and Rutgers, for sure, we can do that. So now, as a practical issue, we have a break. I ask you if you could have like a 10 minutes break instead of a 15. So now it is 11:40. We could come back 10 to noon, so 11:50. I think it's nice. And then I will respect the timing for all the 3 panels that are coming. I will not squeeze them, and we can squeeze a little bit the lunch time later on, okay? So please feel free, 10 minutes break.